Hello guys, back again on the Al Rasta channel. Here we will explain about the Slay the God storyline in part 2 that you have been waiting for. If you are just watching this series, you must watch the first part, for which I have put the link in the description. Okay, no need to linger. Let's get to the story. The scene begins in a house where the phone is ringing. A man named Zhao Ping, one of the team captains of the Night Watcher organization in another region, received a call that night from Team 136 Captain Chen Mu-ye, who informed him that Divine Agent Michael had now appeared and had intersected with a member of the Church of Ancient God, who was carrying dozens of ghost masks in his car. Therefore, in order to prevent unwanted things from happening, Chen Mu-ye will then try to secure the intended divine agent, aka Lin Chi. Back to Lin Chi, who was still in the Hotel of Love, together with Lao Jiao, who here tells us that since the appearance of mysterious mist around the world, there have also been a handful of children who were born with some kind of special ability called Forbidden Ruin, or it can also be called Forbidden Power. This Forbidden Rut is divided into 6 levels, namely Vessel, Pond, River, Sea, Absolute, and Klein. Lin Chi himself is probably at the Vessel level, but in his case it is quite unique because his 6 levels of Forbidden Ruin are represented in 6 doors that have different symbols. The fact that he possessed a type of divine power made him a divine agent who was directly chosen by the Archangel Michael and possessed a portion of his power. In the case of divine agents, there should be certain conditions that the agent must fulfill at the request of the god. Lin Chi, however, did not know the reason why Michael had chosen him, and the conditions had not even been mentioned by Michael before. Lin Chi here instead asked whether Lao Jiao's Forbidden Ruin or divine power was his. Because Lao Jiao had previously shown that he could slash through the ghost mask so easily, Lao Jiao then explained that people who possessed divine power were few and far between. As for himself, let alone having Forbidden Ruin, he was just a special soldier who had ordinary combat experience. Or you could say he was just an ordinary person who could do martial arts and served as a support and informant. Previously, he only fought using forbidden rust items, for example, such as the commandment space item that can bring up red barriers. So after all, he himself could already be considered part of the Night Watcher members. Having had enough of wondering, Lin Chi then left Lao Jiao alone in the Hotel of Love. Of course, at least Lao Jiao could play on the rocking mattress in the room. Lao Jiao, who still hadn't given up on getting Lin Chi, continued to follow him around. But it seems that Lin Chi is not too interested in knowing things like what exactly is the organization behind Lao Jiao, and what the organization has been doing all this time. According to Lin Chi, in this case, there were 2 choices for a person, which were to join the organization or become a dead fish that wouldn't spill the beans. In order to persuade Lin Chi, Lao Jiao began to explain that he was from an official organization, or rather, an army called the Night Watcher, which was formed to eradicate the monsters or the invasion of the gods, which seemed to be increasingly brutal over the past few years. And thanks to the Night Watchers, so far the humans living in the Daxia region can live in peace. And this time, Lao Jiao, a Night Watcher member of Team 136, openly invited Lin Chi to join the organization. A very young person like Lin Chi should be very interested in joining and becoming a hero. But Lin Chi had to sincerely decline the offer. He couldn't join the organization because he had an aunt who had been taking care of him for decades. In addition, he also has a good little brother who keeps waiting for him to come home. Lin Chi also has a dog that he named Blackie. They are all Lin Chi's little family. The condition of his aunt, who is constantly working hard, is also now making her health deteriorate. That's why Lin Chi wasn't the least bit interested in becoming a hero, because all he wanted to do was protect the little family that he had come to think of as his world.
这就是我的全世界。
Even though Lin Chi had refused to join the organization, he had not abandoned one of his tasks, which was to cure the patient named the goddess Nyx in the god's mental hospital. His mission progress had now also risen to 6%. Lao Jiao, who was standing on the beach, received a report from Vice Chairman Xiang Nan that the team captain and other members were dealing with a new type of monster. That was why Lin Chi, the god agent, had to be secured. And if he resists, then force him. A short scene takes us to the underground aqueduct area. A member of the Church of Ancient God is seen feeding the ghost mask, and after devouring the food, the monster becomes stronger, fiercer, and more terrifying. Back to Lin Chi's house. After coming home from school and entering the house, Lin Chi heard a familiar voice coming from inside the kitchen chatting with his aunt, and it turned out to be Lao Jiao. After bringing Lao Jiao into the room, Lin Chi asked why Lao Jiao was there and knew his house. It turned out that he was able to find out Lin Chi's house with a detectable badge, and before that, Lao Jiao had secretly put it in Lin Chi's bag. At the same time, Lao Jiao gave two choices: take the money given by the Night Watcher and join, or die here. But it was all a joke. According to Lao Jiao, if Lin Chi really doesn't want to join, it's best if he leaves as far away from this place as possible. Because he was an agent of God, there would definitely be many people after him in the future, such as the people from the Church of Ancient God, a group of freaks who would definitely take Lin Chi in a way that was worse than the way Lao Jiao had done it. After seeing Lin Chi, Lao Jiao felt that the two of them had a slight resemblance. When he was 6 years old, Lao Jiao's father passed away, leaving only his mother to raise Lao Jiao by herself. In the end, Lao Jiao also left his mother to become a soldier, which had been his dream. And now that he was a night watcher, he didn't even see his mother anymore. He felt like a very unfilial son, but unlike Lin Chi, who preferred to be by his family's side. That was a very good choice, according to Lao Jiao. And now that Lin Chi really didn't want to join the organization, he asked Lin Chi to live well, while the rest would be taken care of by Lao Jiao, handling the captain and the others. Lin Chi here also gave another pile of money in an envelope to Lao Jiao before he left. Annoyed at always getting rejected, in the end Lao Jiao could only give small snacks to Lin Chi, who happily accepted them. Here Lin Chi also asked, if Lao Jiao's dream was to become a soldier, then what was his goal? Lao Jiao entered the army with the goal of becoming a general who had many medals hanging on his chest, becoming a great hero to the world, so that he could finally return to his village with honor, so that his mother could be the pride of all the people in her village. Before leaving, Lin Chi gave Lao Jiao the badge that was almost left behind again. For Lao Jiao, that cool badge was his life. Lin Chi thanked Lao Jiao, whom he now considered at least a hero to Lin Chi's family. While shaking hands, Lao Jiao wished Lin Chi a bright future and to be able to earn many medals that would be a source of pride in his life. And then Lao Jiao said goodbye because he still had a mission to complete. The cool badge that Lao Jiao regarded as his life on the back reads, "Face adversity bravely even at the cost of your life." Somewhere, it was seen that Lao Jiao had now activated the red barriers along with Vice Chairman Xiang Nan, who gave a report that their team was now searching for a new type of monster that had escaped after the battle. The monster was extremely dangerous, hence why Lao Jiao was asked to immediately pull out of there after setting up the barriers. And it turned out that the powerful monster that their captain had injured earlier was now in front of Lao Jiao. Xiang Nan, who knew about this, told Lao Jiao to leave immediately, because even though it was seriously injured, the monster was still dangerous. It was at river level, and Lao Jiao might not be able to deal with it. For Lao Jiao, there was a high possibility that the powerful creature could break through the barrier, and if that happened, then there would be more casualties there. Still, since Lao Jiao wasn't a fighter, Xiangnan told him to leave quickly. Lao Jiao would never be able to defeat it. Just let the other members take care of the creature since Xiangnan had already called them to come to the location. But Lao Jiao eventually chose to throw down the earphones, disconnect the call with the vice chairman, and wait for the monster who was trying to break through the barrier with his fists. When the dark night falls, I will stand in front of millions of people, facing hardships and even sacrificing my life. That was the path of Lao Jiao, who now had not only millions of lives behind him, but also the small world of Lin Chi that he was trying to protect. On that rainy night, none of the civilians knew that the Night Watcher members were undergoing a bloody battle, and the reason why they were all still able to live their days normally. Lao Jiao, who was still face-to-face with the Ghost Mask King while weaving in and out of the barrage, was able to land a few slashes on his opponent, although they weren't too fatal. And conversely, with just one punch, the monster could give Lao Jiao a deep wound that was quite painful. From here, Lao Jiao realized that although the opponent had great strength, Lao Jiao had the advantage in terms of speed. In the end, the creature activated Forbidden Ruin 176. When a monster submits, this one ability allows the monster to create an illusory domain. It could be seen that the field that became the battle area began to change. The buildings around the position area began to become irregular, as if there was no law of gravity in it. Lao Jiao didn't think that the creature he was facing this time was smart enough, because when he was in the domain, the speed that was his advantage was no longer useful, unlike the monster, who could quite freely move around. The only thing Lao Jiao could do at this point was to engage in close combat and try to hold on until the captain and his teammates arrived as reinforcements. The Ghost Mask King that appeared this time was known to be a creature that was previously fed by members of the Church of Ancient God, making it evolve to the highest level. And during the time of the battle, Lao Jiao also realized something. The Forbidden Ruin 176 used by the opponent was quite different, because aside from being able to create a chaotic domain, the creature was also able to move the surrounding buildings at will. Lao Jiao's condition was further aggravated when he received a heavy blow, causing his ribs to be severely damaged. While enduring the pain he received, Lao Jiao also felt very annoyed that if only he had an attack-type Forbidden Ruin ability, he would have finished off his enemy several times, and the one-sided battle between the two continued. Turning to Lin Chi's house, a bat came there to give Lin Chi information about Lao Jiao. And without lingering for long, he quickly rushed to the location, even though before he left, he was asked by his brother not to go out that night because it was raining heavily. Lin Chi realized that Lao Jiao was now in a dangerous situation, considering he was just an ordinary human. But the opponent he was facing wasn't just any monster. After being severely beaten, Lao Jiao was now in a semi-conscious state. In that situation, he recalled his conversation with Lin Chi regarding the badge that he already considered his own life. In fact, the Night Watcher's badge wasn't just a decoration, or just a symbol proving that one was a member. However, there is a hidden power in it that should only be activated when the situation is truly hopeless. That hopeless situation was now felt by Lao Jiao, who said that this was the day he had been looking forward to for so long. After activating the power inside the badge, Lao Jiao blew the monster away with a reddish energy that was called the Guide of Gods and Demons. The power comes from burning all the energy in the user's body and can only be done once. Coinciding with Lin Chi arriving and being able to easily destroy the red barriers, one of the Ghost Mask King's arms was severed after being hit by the sword slash of Lao Jiao, who could now use the 083 Forbidden Ruin, Moon Flash. He also looked so happy after being able to use the ability, especially as an ordinary human. Lao Jiao here was immediately shocked when he saw Lin Chi, who suddenly appeared behind him. He wondered how Lin Chi could enter through the monster's domain. "It's easy. Just look at it, and suddenly it's destroyed itself," Lin Chi replied. But the battle was still not over. Ghost Mask King still had quite a lot of power. He could even regenerate, restoring his severed arm in seconds. For Lao Jiao, this was the perfect time to show his skills. He asked Lin Chi to pay close attention to what he was about to witness, because the slash that the uncle was about to demonstrate was very cool. Of course, he wasn't talking nonsense this time. He really looks cool when he uses the moon flash, a moon slash that removes the monster's left arm and head. To close the act, Lao Jiao sucked on another Marlboro, but he forgot where he put his lighter. It just so happened that Lin Chi had brought it along because he had left his lighter at home. And this was when Lin Chi discovered that the uncle, who had been standing so proudly, was instead lying limp on the surface. This was a side effect of the one-time burning of the divine and demonic guidance energy. There was no way to recover from the side effects received by the user. But Lao Jiao was very satisfied because after using it, he could feel the power that he had been looking forward to as an ordinary person. Lao Jiao had always been both amazed and envious of his teammates, who had innate forbidden ruin, and now he was able to experience it for himself and even a high-level type of forbidden ruin. Yes, indeed, but it would be the first and last time he could feel the sensation. Before closing his eyes, Lao Jiao asked Lin Chi to hand the medal that Lao Jiao had to his mother and asked if the stunt he performed before was cool. That's right. Lin Chi also felt that Uncle was cool, very cool, cooler than anyone Lin Chi had ever seen. Lao Jiao thought that Lin Chi would also be cool and even cooler than him. Those were the last words of the uncle, who eventually died on that rainy night. What is a dark night? What is standing in front of millions of people a hero? In fact, no civilians knew about Lao Jiao's actions. Lin Chi felt very annoyed with Lao Jiao's struggle, even though he was also just an ordinary person. But why did he have to make sacrifices instead of living to take care of himself, and instead pretending to be a hero? The fallen monster recovered its head and moved towards Lin Chi with what was left of its strength, but that was a big mistake. Gripping the sword bearing the inscription Jiao Kong Chung, Lin Chi activated his divine power and executed a vertical slash that cut the monster in half. The attack this time actually succeeded in making the monster fall. A Night Watcher member named Hong Ying, the Lady of the Spear, was moving quickly towards Lao Jiao's place. Mr. Xiangnan told her that for a few minutes, Lao Jiao's badge had not moved from its position. However, Hong Ying kept running because she believed that Lao Jiao was still not dead. At the same time, Xiangnan discovered that Lao Jiao's badge had started moving again. This gave Hong Ying a little hope of seeing Lao Jiao, but it was not to be. After arriving at her destination, all Hong Ying could see was a young boy carrying Lao Jiao's lifeless body. The young man said that he had now escorted General Lao Jiao home in triumph. After the dark incident on the rainy night, Lin Chi was interviewed. He was asked several questions related to the incident by the Night Watcher. Lin Chi explained that Lao Jiao, who died alone, managed to defeat the Ghost Mask King by using Forbidden Ruin 083 Moon Flash. And because Lin Chi felt indebted to Lao Jiao for not wanting to join the organization before, Lin Chi was now willing to join. But with a condition where Lin Chi would only join the organization within the next 10 years, he didn't want to be too attached to the organization. Actually, those who have joined the organization are not allowed to resign, but for Lin Chi, he got an exception. The condition could be met as long as he showed great contribution within the next 10 years. After the agreement was reached, 2 military personnel visited Lin Chi's house and handed him a handwritten letter from Lin Chi to Auntie, stating that he was going to become a soldier and that he would not be able to go home for a while as he would be leaving for the military camp soon. So unexpected and so sudden, the contents of the letter made the aunt worried, especially since Lin Chi had just been able to see but suddenly wanted to become a soldier. The soldier told her not to worry, as Lin Chi's physical condition and eyesight were excellent after the examination. Lin Chi finally got the chance to contact his aunt. His aunt didn't think Lin Chi wanted to be a soldier, but if that's what he wanted, she was fine with it. But Lin Chi never even told her, so Lin Chi could only apologize about it. He also informed me that he would soon arrive at the military camp in 2 days. From the aunt told Lin Chi to eat a lot while in camp later, so as not to faint. The aunt also previously received some money from the army as a subsidy. The aunt will also keep the money for Lin Chi's marriage expenses later. But Lin Chi didn't want the money saved for him because there would be extra money when Chi became a soldier. So the money could just buy his sister nice clothes and food. With the excuse of a bad signal, Lin Chi disconnected the call, even though he just didn't want to say goodbye to young Jin.
再见。
你这个笨蛋！
To keep Lin Chi's family safe, Chen Muye, the captain of Team 136, put up a barrier around Lin Chi's home area. He also explained that if Lin Chi stayed there, it would only bring his family's situation closer to danger. That was why joining the organization would be the best choice. And then, all of them, including Lin Chi, who was hiding next to his house, set off for Team 136's headquarters, which was in a roadside shop, which was not very good. Lin Chi has 1 month before he is sent to the training camp, which is a requirement before one becomes an official Night Watcher member. In his spare time, he will receive a little training from Team 136 and be made a temporary member. Leng Xuan is the best at shooting now with Lin Chi to test his accuracy. It turned out that Lin Chi's shots at the target missed. His accuracy was really bad.
我的天赋怎么样？
He also practiced agility and prediction with Hong Ying, and improved his combat experience indirectly through virtual methods with Miss Xiaonan's glasses. There is also Xiang Nan's theoretical teaching, which states that Lin Chi, who is a divine agent, is very special and will be fought over by many parties. His existence could have a great influence on the balance of the world. Indeed, it was a very important matter. But at this time, what Lin Chi needed to do was to fully understand his abilities. That was why he had to attend different training sessions during his time as a temporary member, until he could finally surpass humanity. For example, there were 5 powerful figures who had already surpassed the climb level. They wield power in their respective territories and are referred to as the strongest fighting force just below the gods. Among the 5 strongest existences, one of them is the supreme commander of the Night Watcher. They are very mysterious people and are rarely seen. When practicing dodging a hail of rubber bullets with Wen Qimo, the man explained that forbidden ruin powers below 100, like Moonflash's 083, previously used by Lao Jiao and Lin Chi's 003, had a high risk of death and were extremely destructive. But it seemed that what Lin Chi possessed was only a portion of divine power. He only had enhanced perceptual and mental abilities. The Night Watcher himself only had a few records related to the Archangel Michael's abilities, which included miracles. And it was evident that during Lin Chi's training session, It was as if he had received a miracle. His progress in all aspects of his abilities suddenly increased by leaps and bounds. The points he earned could even overtake the captain's points. It didn't make sense. Only her shooting accuracy was fairly poor. Even though he was using a long-barreled sniper weapon, with which even ordinary people could shoot ants at a distance of 500 meters, Lin Chi still couldn't hit the target correctly with the weapon.
哪怕是500米开外的蚂蚁，也许这也是一种奇迹。
Able to create miracles. If the Church of Ancient Gods people knew Lin Chi's ability, they would naturally put more effort into obtaining it. The curious Lin Chi asked, "Who exactly is this Church of Ancient God?" "They are our prey," replied Jiangnan, and continued that the Church of Ancient God has 3 powerful backers who are considered evil gods. Among them is Brahma, one of the 5 supreme deities of Hinduism. Then there was the goddess of death and chaos, who came from Nordic mythology. Then there was Hela, who lived in Niflheim. And the last one is Hades. No need to explain these guys, you must already know them. The group had the goal of ruling the new world after the appearance of the mist and tried to gather everyone who had forbidden ruin abilities and divine powers to be able to strengthen their foundation. And Daxia, whose territory was still not covered by the mist, was a very easy target for the Church of Ancient God. If that's true, Lin Chi asked, does that mean there are still people living in the mist? Lin Chi will find out about that soon. But certainly after Lin Chi's existence was discovered by the Church of Ancient God, he would get recruited. Or else, Lin Chi would be eliminated. Dinner time came, and Chen Mu-ye, the team captain, was the most reliable chef there. While Hong Ying fought over the meal with Wen Qimo, Leng Xuan the sniper took some meat and gave it to Lin Chi so that his eyes could hit the bullseye.
人看上的，
是我新加的，眼睛不好使。
Chen Mu-ye explained that temporary members like Lin Chi would not get living accommodation. But it was a good thing that Miss Hong Ying would allow Lin Chi to stay at her house for a while. But since after eating, Hong Ying wants to practice, Wen Qimo will take Lin Chi to Hong Ying's place. On the way to Hong Ying's residence, Wen Qimo explained that every Night Watcher member must have their own secrets. For example, Hong Ying said she wanted to practice, but she was actually carving Lao Jiao's tombstone while crying. In their team, there was an unwritten rule that the tombstone of a Night Watcher who died in battle would be carved by the teammate who was closest to him. It was supposed to be engraved the next day, but it seemed that Hong Ying did it secretly that night, intentionally to vent her grief while not wanting to worry the other members. Lin Chi felt bad that what she was doing now was like someone peeking into someone else's secrets. Shaking his head, Wen Qimo said that the 2 of them were not the only ones doing so. Of course, in the other direction, the other 136 team members were watching what Hong Ying and the other members were doing.
那孩子挺好的。
Back at the god's mental hospital, the goddess Nyx, who is getting treatment, knows very well that her son Danadus, aka Lin Chi, is now thinking a lot. As a family, the goddess Nyx doesn't mind if the child confides in him about what makes him sad, like now. While taking the goddess Nyx for a walk by the beach, Lin Chi began to vent, saying that he knew someone who was willing to make sacrifices just for people he didn't recognize at all. And last time Lin Chi also made a big decision solely on the actions taken by this acquaintance. He really wanted to return the favor on his behalf. Lin Chi recognized that this acquaintance was great, and he wanted to see him for a while longer, but unfortunately that was impossible. For the goddess Nyx, her son was a very good person, but he didn't have to replace the role of a person, because surely the acquaintance he was talking about just wanted Lin Chi to have a better life. Unable to provide much help, the goddess Nyx here intended to give Lin Chi her bracelet. But after the goddess checked her wrist, she just remembered that the bracelet she meant had been taken away by a girl who also lived in the god's mental asylum. The girl who wore a white dress and lived on the 3rd floor of the building. Goddess Nyx and the girl had previously made a bet, creating an object. If she won, the girl would return the child of the goddess Nyx. But if she lost, the bracelet would be taken away. And in the end, the goddess Nyx lost. Out of curiosity, Lin Chi immediately went to the 3rd floor. Besides being able to defeat the moon goddess, Lin Chi was also curious how someone else lived there before him. When he arrived at a room on the 3rd floor, Lin Chi found a letter. And when he started to open it, the room he entered suddenly moved downwards like an elevator. While the letter written by the teenage girl referred to by the goddess Nyx contained a slight warning. The girl asked the owner of the god's hospital, or Lin Chi, not to leak this place to the public if he didn't want to get into a lot of trouble. In addition, the girl also borrowed the bracelet of one of the patients and promised to return it to Lin Chi after the two of them met, waiting for her to grow up, as Lin Chi was the girl's hope that she could go home. She also wrote that there was a room hidden under this office. When the room stopped moving, Lin Chi came out and started walking down a dark hallway filled with abandoned holding cells. Among the prisoner cells, there was one prisoner cell that was very noisy, and it turned out that it contained one prisoner, Ghost Mask King, an ugly creature that was previously executed by Lin Chi. The creature tried to break out, but its strength was not enough to destroy the cell. Not long after, a system message appeared stating that the Ghost Mask King was a mythological creature that Lin Chi had previously executed. So Lin Chi had the authority to determine the fate of the creature's soul. He was also given 2 options. First, destroy the soul of the creature in front of him and eliminate it from the world. And secondly, give the monster a sense of fear that would be calculated by a number. And when the fear value is 60, Lin Chi can make the monster his slave. The creature can be used to treat patients and provide protection within a certain limit. Lin Chi struck the creature with his divine power, knocking it down and severing one of its legs. Several attacks by Lin Chi quickly increased the monster's cringe value, which was now at 70%, and he was now able to enslave it. While looking at the monster's memories, Lin Chi discovered that the reason why the monster was able to evolve was because of the food provided by the mysterious figure from the Church of Ancient God, the mastermind behind the reason for the riot that left Lao Jiao dead. At first, Lin Chi had thought of hiring the monster as a patient nurse, but unfortunately the monster was also the reason why the uncle was killed before. So Lin Chi here chose to crack its head and kill its soul. Back to the personal training session with Chen Muye. This time, Lin Chi will learn the basic Night Watcher sword technique called Star Sword. Completely different from instant divine power, sword techniques had to be learned with perseverance. Muye said that even though Lao Jiao didn't have the Forbidden Ruin, he was a qualified sword user whose ability could be matched by the captain. And now that Captain Muye didn't want Lin Chi to follow Lao Jiao's abilities, he hoped that as a divine agent, Lin Chi could develop sword skills in his own way. When Lin Chi's sword was knocked away after being hit by the captain's relentless attack, he could see Lao Jiao's name written at the bottom of the hilt. The divine power activated, and Lin Chi was able to destroy the captain's wooden sword, while saying that Lin Chi still couldn't forget Lao Jiao. That's why he would combine his divine technique with Lao Jiao's, and the sword fight between the two continued. Aside from slaying monsters, Chang'an City's Night Watcher branch also does small jobs like helping grandmothers who think their husbands are cheating on them because they rarely come home, when in fact they are looking for their lost wedding rings. How weird. Meanwhile, Lin Chi promised that since Lao Jiao had saved the small world he lived in, so now and in the next 10 years was the time for Lin Chi to protect the world that Uncle Jiao was trying to protect. At the end, we see a schoolgirl gnawing on a teacher's neck. The incident was witnessed by another student who was hiding, and suddenly,